Welcome to the Maine Basketball Council 2023-24 State Interpretation Meeting. I'd like to start off by thanking the 5 board interpreters and the 3 MPA tournament site supervisors who are directly responsible for the creation of this content. The agenda for today's session starts with the National Federation of High School rules changes, then addresses the National Federation points of emphasis, then moves into a discussion of the main points of emphasis, and then we will discuss the official selection process of the MPA tournament, and then end the session with a short quiz on the materials we've covered here today. It should be understood to get credit for this session, each viewer must submit their answers to the quiz to TJ Halliday at tjhalliday@ibo.me and submit their $25 fee. This will give them credit for the State Clinic for the 2023-24 season. You can pay in one of 2 ways. You can send a check of $25 to IBO Board 150, P.O. Box 368, Mars Hill, Maine 04758, or you can click on the QR code and submit a payment through PayPal. Before we begin today, I want to make it clear that there are 2 primary documents that should be available to all officials for them to be properly prepared for the 2023-24 season. The first of which is the IBO Handbook, which outlines the IBO's Rules Guide, the IBO Crew of 2 Manual, and the IBO Crew of 3 Manual, as well as the Maine Basketball Council Officials, Mechanics, and Procedures Manual, which outlines the rules exceptions, the manual exceptions, and the very specific rules interpretations that apply to Maine State basketball. This document can be found in the Resources section on the Maine Basketball Council website.
2023-2024 National Federation of High Schools Rules Changes and Points of Emphasis. This presentation is brought to you by the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials. IBO is a nonprofit service and professional organization managed by and for basketball officials. Since 1921, IBO has been the worldwide leader in recruiting and training basketball officials and has grown to a network spanning 38 U.S. states and 11 foreign countries with over 14,000 members. IBO's stated purposes are to educate, train, develop, and provide continuous instruction for basketball officials, to promote the welfare of the game of basketball to players, coaches, administrators, and officials, to have an adequate number of thoroughly trained and capable officials available at all times, to maintain the highest standard of basketball officiating, to encourage the spirit of fair play and sportsmanship. 2023-24 National Federation of High Schools Rules Changes. Shot clock operator. For those states using a shot clock, this rules change requires the shot clock operator to sit at the scores and timers table. This establishes the placement of the shot clock operator to address the growing use of video boards that allow tablet control from anywhere in the gym. Uniform bottoms. Beginning this season, the terms shorts, skirts will change to uniform bottoms. This rules change requires uniform bottoms to be like-colored while allowing different styles among teammates. This creates specific guidelines for uniform bottoms that were previously undefined. In this image, if team members were attired using all the various uniform bottoms as shown, the team members would be considered properly equipped. Undershirts. This change allows undershirts worn under dark team jerseys to be solid black or a single solid color similar to the torso of the jersey. All team members wearing undershirts must wear the same solid color. This allows players from schools with a unique jersey color to have an undershirt option when wearing their dark team jersey. Players stepping out of bounds. This rules change establishes that a player may step out of bounds without penalty unless they are the first player to touch the ball after returning to the court or if they left the court to avoid a violation. This penalizes a team only if a player leaves the court on their own volition and is the first to touch the ball after returning to the court or has left the court to avoid a violation. In this play, red number 23 steps off the court of his own volition, runs along the end line, then re-enters the court and is the first to touch the ball after returning to the court. Beginning with the 2023-24 season, a player stepping off the court of their own volition is no longer an infraction unless they are the first to touch the ball, as demonstrated on this play. In this next play, white number 14 steps off the court under his own volition, but is not the first to touch the ball upon his return to the court. In this situation, it is legal for white 14 to catch the ball. It should be noted that this rules change does not only pertain to the players on the team with the ball. If a defender is the first to touch the ball, the player returning to the court may then legally touch the ball. When an official observes a player stepping off the court under their own volition, the covering official should display the withheld whistle delayed violation signal to communicate a potential infraction has occurred. This violation will most often be observed by the lead official. However, the center or trail officials in a crew of 3 or the trail official in a crew of 2 may assist with this ruling as needed. While it is legal for players to step off the court on their own volition, they cannot do so to avoid a violation. In this image, the player in the white jersey steps off the court to avoid a 3-second violation. In this situation, a player stepping out of bounds has committed a violation, and the official should penalize the infraction. This rules change does not apply to players who are legally out of bounds due to momentum. For example, after attempting a layup or saving a ball near a boundary line. In these scenarios, it is legal for a player to be the first to touch the ball as long as they have established inbound status when they contact the ball. Bonus free throw situations. The rule change has eliminated all 1-and-1 free throw situations. The rules change establishes the bonus as 2 free throws awarded for a common foul, beginning with the team's 5th foul in each quarter. However, the number of team fouls are reset to 0 at the end of each quarter. An overtime period is considered an extension of the 4th quarter. Therefore, when the overtime period occurs, the team foul counts will not be reset to 0 for the overtime period. This rules change is intended to improve the flow of the game and reduce opportunities for rough play during rebound action that used to occur during 1-and-1 free throw situations. Throw-in spots. Throw-in spots for all out-of-bounds violations in both the front court and the back court will remain at the spot nearest to where the ball went out of bounds. When a team is gaining or retaining possession of the ball in their backcourt, the throw-in will be at the spot nearest to where the violation, foul, held ball, or other stoppage occurred. This year's rules change establishes 4 designated front court throw-in spots. 2 spots are located along the sideline, 28 feet from the end line, and 2 spots are located 3 feet outside each lane along the end line. When a team is gaining or retaining possession for a front court throw-in for any reason other than out-of-bounds violation, the throw-in will be at one of the 4 designated spots nearest to where the stoppage occurred. This will help ensure the accuracy of where the ball will be awarded and allows coaches more defined locations to employ offensive and defensive strategies for throw-ins. One of those strategies will be where the ball is located when a timeout is granted when a player has control of the ball on the court. When a player is located within the imaginary trapezoid when a timeout is granted, the ensuing throw-in spot would be on the end line 3 feet outside the nearest lane line. If the player is located outside the imaginary trapezoid when a timeout is granted, the ensuing throw-in spot would be at the 28-foot mark along the sideline nearest to where the ball was located when the timeout was granted. Coaches and players will need to pay particular attention to ball location as it relates to the imaginary trapezoid when requesting timeouts. Understanding this rule change will have a significant impact on offensive and defensive strategies. However, it should be noted that this provision does not pertain for timeouts granted after an out-of-bounds violation has occurred. If a front court throw-in is a result of an out-of-bounds violation, the throw-in spot does not move to one of the 4 designated front court throw-in spots if a timeout is granted before the completion of the throw-in. After the conclusion of the timeout, the ensuing throw-in must be from the original designated spot where the ball went out of bounds. However, this rules change does pertain to throw-in violations. When a throw-in violation occurs, the new throw-in is from the same designated spot as the original throw-in spot, unless the team gaining control of the ball will be in their front court. If that is the case, the throw-in will be from the nearest of the 4 designated front court throw-in spots. However, it should be noted that a boundary plane warning will not cause the throw-in spot to move to one of the 4 front court designated spots. In these instances, the ensuing throw-in remains at the original throw-in spot. Finally, as it has been in previous years, when a team is awarded the ball for a throw-in as a result of a timeout, held ball, double foul, inadvertent whistle, or injury situation, the throw-in spot will be based on the location of the ball when the stoppage occurred. When a team is awarded the ball for a throw-in as a result of a common foul or violation, the throw-in spot will be based on where the infraction occurred. In review, just remember, if a team is gaining or retaining the ball for a throw-in as a result from an out-of-bounds violation or any stoppage in the backcourt, the throw-in will be from the nearest spot. If a team is gaining or retaining the ball in the front court for any reason other than an out-of-bounds violation, the throw-in will be at one of the 4 front court designated throw-in spots. Awarding the ball to the wrong team for a throw-in. This rules change allows officials to correct the mistake before the first dead ball and after the ball becomes live, unless there is a change of possession. This change allows a more reasonable time frame for the officials to correct their mistake. In this image, the ball was incorrectly awarded to the team in white jerseys in the backcourt for a throw-in with 2:05 remaining in the third quarter. The mistake was discovered with 2:01 remaining in the quarter. The officials will correct the mistake by awarding the ball to the correct team that was entitled to the ball. If the throw-in team is gaining control of the ball in their front court, the throw-in will be from one of the 4 front court designated throw-in spots. In this example, it would be at the 28-foot mark along the sideline. However, if the original spot was due to an out-of-bounds violation, the ball would be awarded at the original throw-in spot that resulted from the out-of-bounds violation. Consumed time may be placed back on the clock if the officials have definite knowledge of the time consumed or know the exact time on the clock when the throw-in took place. This could be as a result of direct knowledge of the time on the clock when the throw-in was administered, or due to officials counting in the backcourt or in closely guarded situations. In this next scenario, The ball was incorrectly awarded to a team in white jerseys for a throw-in in their front court with 2:05 remaining in the third quarter. The mistake was discovered with 2:01 remaining in the quarter. Since the team in the red jerseys will be gaining possession of the ball in their backcourt, the ball will be awarded at the original throw-in spot. Once again, consumed time may be placed back on the clock if the officials have definite knowledge of the time consumed or the exact time the throw-in took place. This rules change should serve as a reminder to officials that after putting the ball in play, officials should check to see that the clock was properly started. After each whistle, officials should check to see that the clock was properly stopped. 2023-24 National Federation of High Schools Points of Emphasis: Uniforms, Equipment, and Apparel. Uniforms remain an important aspect of the educational experience for the student athlete. School sports uniforms play a vital role in promoting student identity and unity, instilling a sense of belonging and purpose. There's a certain amount of pride that comes with wearing a uniform and representing not just the individual, but the entire team, their school, their family, and their community. Every coach, every team member, and all other bench personnel should take pride in their appearance and honor the expectations set at their schools and community. It is imperative that coaches, players, and officials understand the uniform, equipment, and apparel rules. Recent rules changes have accommodated emerging styles and cultural developments to aid with compliance by team members. This in turn has taken some of the pressure off officials to be the uniform police before the game begins. This year is no exception, as the Rules Committee is allowing the use of black undershirts under the dark jerseys. This should give schools another option to be legally equipped, as some schools have struggled to find undershirts that are similar to the dominant color of the jersey. The head coach is directly responsible for legality of uniforms and making sure their team members are properly equipped. The head coach should set the expectations for their team to be properly equipped before the season and ensure compliance throughout the season. The head coach should not put the onus on officials to have to enforce the uniform, equipment, and apparel rules. During the pregame coaches and captains meeting, each head coach is required to inform officials that their team is properly equipped and will remain that way during the contest. This meeting is intended to set the tone for the contest and establish expectations for team members to comply with the rules. During pregame warm-ups, officials should prohibit further participation if there is a safety concern. If any illegal apparel or equipment is observed, the team members can continue to warm up, but will not be able to participate in the game unless the situation is resolved. If officials observe an issue with illegal uniforms, equipment, or apparel, the issue should be addressed directly with the head coach and not the players. Schools may make requests to make an exception to uniform rules for special events. These requests must be submitted to the State Association for approval before the event and may not be altered by mutual agreement between schools or coaches. If you are interested in receiving a great resource for understanding these rules, the IBO Uniform Equipment and Apparel document is available free of charge. This 2-page document outlines these rules in a visual format for easy reference. There are 2 ways to receive a copy. For IBO members, go to the Members Only area at www.ibo.org, and it can be downloaded from the site. For non-IBO members, please contact IBO at info@ibo.org to request the document. Bench decorum. The Rules Committee is concerned about bench decorum rule violations. Head coaches are expected to remain in the coaching box. The rules change that allowed the extension of the coaching box to 28 feet was intended to allow head coaches to communicate with their players without violating the coaching box rule. Coaches who go beyond the coaching box or onto the court gain a distinct advantage, which is not within the spirit and intent of the rules. In this image, the head coach of the team in the red jerseys steps onto the court to communicate with her players. This is a violation of the coaching box rule. For the first violation of the coaching box, the official shall warn the head coach unless the offense is judged to be major, in which case a technical foul shall be assessed. Head coaches, assistant coaches, team members, and other bench personnel are not allowed to disrespectfully or inappropriately address and/or gesture at an official after a ruling is made on the court. Players and coaches are permitted to celebrate an individual or team accomplishment, but they cannot direct that celebration toward their opponent. Taunting, baiting, finger pointing, trash talking, and using inappropriate gestures have increased during the past several seasons. Specifically, trendy hand gestures and body language meant to demean and single out opponents do not reflect good sporting behavior and have no place in the interscholastic setting. Coaches are reminded that while the bench area expands during a timeout, the bench area does not extend beyond the 28-foot line. Coaches and other bench personnel may not move to the expanded bench area until the timeout begins to ensure bench personnel do not create inadvertent contact with opposing players still out on the playing court. Coaches who leave the expanded bench area to engage officials inappropriately are subject to a warning or a bench technical foul. Officials are expected to enforce the bench decorum rules. Officials are encouraged to use all the tools at their disposal to ensure compliance. These tools include issuing an administrative warning for misconduct to coaches or bench personnel and assessing a technical foul if warranted. If a head coach or other bench personnel exhibit unsportsmanlike behavior, the official must issue a warning unless the offense is deemed to be major. If the offense is considered major, no warning should be given. A direct technical foul should be charged to the head coach or bench personnel. The warning for behavior given to the head coach or bench personnel is an administrative action that is documented in the scorebook, and then the head coach is informed. A second unsporting act committed by any member of bench personnel, including the head coach, from the same team will result in a direct technical foul charge to the offender. If the offender is a member of bench personnel, the head coach is also charged with an indirect technical foul. Assistant coaches are not authorized to approach the scorer's table at any time. A team manager or statistician may obtain information from the scorer's table when the clock stops and the ball is dead. The head coach is permitted to go to the scorer's table to request a 60-second timeout to confer with personnel regarding a correctable error or to prevent or rectify a timing or scoring mistake, error, or an alternating possession mistake. Throw-ins. Coaches, players, and officials will need to become well-versed in the new rules regarding throw-in locations. Accurately identifying the proper throw-in spots is imperative to ensure the proper balance of play between the offensive and defensive teams. By misapplying this rule, teams could gain an unfair advantage or be put at a disadvantage not intended by the rules. Coaches design specific plays and employ strategies based on where the ball is put in play. It is essential for game officials to be diligent in administering the ball at the proper throw-in location. When a stoppage occurs that will result in a throw-in, officials will need to know: where did the foul or violation occur? Is the throw-in team in their front court or back court? And where was the ball when the stoppage occurred? Understanding the answers to these questions will help officials know where to administer the throw-in spot as outlined by the rules change. Officials should use proper sight of foul, sight of violation, and timeout procedures to communicate throw-in spots to players, coaches, as well as the other officials on the crew. After an official stops play for a foul, violation, timeout, or other stoppage, they should indicate the spot of the ensuing throw-in. During timeouts, an official shall be located at the throw-in spot with the ball. If the throw-in spot is on the table side, the official will be located parallel with their partners directly across the court from the throw-in spot. The administering official should also employ proper ball placement procedures to indicate the direction of the next possession following the timeout. When the throw-in is along the end line, the ball shall be placed in front of the torso when the throw-in team's basket is at the opposite end of the court. When the ball is placed behind the official, the throw-in team's basket is on the same end of the court. When the throw-in is along the sideline, the ball shall be placed at the side of the torso that is closest to the basket of the team being awarded the ball. These procedures are put in place to aid in communicating to each team how play is expected to resume following the timeout. Finally, the administering official shall use the proper signal while verbalizing the type of throw-in to inform both teams. The official should verbally state either designated spot or you may move along the end line before placing the ball at the disposal of the thrower. End of game protocol. When the clock is stopped and the ball is dead, with limited playing time remaining, communication between partners and table personnel is imperative. Officials should use timeouts near the end of any quarter period to discuss scoring, timing, timeouts, and bonus situations. End of game contact. Proper coverage for any last-second tries for goal. Overtime procedures, if needed, and approving the final score. Officials should communicate with the scorer and verify the score is correct, verify the number of timeouts remaining, and confirm the bonus situation for each team. After putting the ball in play, officials should ensure the clock was properly started. After each whistle, officials should check to see that the clock was properly stopped. If the timer makes a mistake and does not start or stop the clock correctly, the referee can only correct the mistake if they have definite knowledge of the time involved. If the official has definite knowledge of the exact time, then the referee must put that amount of time on the clock. In contact situations, officials need to make rulings based on the actions of the player who committed the foul. If a team fouls properly, making a legitimate attempt to play the ball or the player, a common foul should be ruled. The strategy of deliberately fouling to stop the clock at the end of the game is acceptable. If the offending team does not make a legitimate effort to play the ball or ball handler, an intentional foul should be ruled. Grabbing or pushing a dribbler from behind with no effort to play the ball are examples of actions that should be ruled intentional. Late in the game, it is suggested that the official responsible for the last-second try indicate responsibility by placing a hand on their chest. In a crew of two, the trail official is primarily responsible for the last second try. In a crew of 3, the official opposite the scorer's table, trail, or center is responsible for the last second try. It should be noted, officials should only sound the whistle to signify the end of the quarter period to indicate that a try was not released prior to the signal to end the period. It is also imperative that the primary official on a last second try signal a 3-point attempt, but not give a successful 3-point signal unless they are also responsible for the last second try. In these situations, the officials will need to make eye contact and communicate before signaling to count or cancel the goal. If an overtime period is needed, the referee shall inform the head coaches, scorer, and timer of the overtime procedure. The procedure will include a 4-minute period starting with a jump ball, a new AP arrow setting. Each team receives 1 additional 60-second timeout. Unused timeouts carry over to the overtime period. Team baskets remain the same as the fourth quarter, and the team foul counts do not reset to 0. At the conclusion of the game, the referee must make eye contact with the scorer to confirm no problems are evident and approve the final score prior to leaving the visual confines of the playing area. When the score is confirmed, the crew shall leave the playing area together.
Main points of emphasis. This year in Maine, the point of emphasis is going to be to stop penalizing legal defenders. In order to meet this goal, we're going to ask officials to observe contact and first ask the question, what did the defense do wrong? We're going to begin our discussion today by understanding the intent and purpose of the rules. The restrictions which the rules place upon players are intended to create a balance of play to provide equal opportunity between offense and defense. It is important to know that the intent and purpose of a rule is so it may be intelligently applied. Despite the rules having the goal of having a balance between offense and defense, in today's game, far too often legal defenders are being charged with fouls. We are going to attempt to improve upon this with our points of emphasis this season. In today's society, it's not unusual to turn on the news and seeing a protest of some type all throughout the world. What if basketball players protested? What would they be saying? Well, we feel defensive players would be saying things like this: stop calling blocking fouls on legal defenders. Asking a question such as, how can I foul if I'm vertical? They may yell out, be fair to defensive players. Or they may say, what about offense-initiated contact? And of course, we all know if someone's complaining about the rules of our game, somebody somewhere is going to yell 3 seconds. And much like we see in those protests all throughout the world, we in the officiating community also believe that it's time to make a change. Let's start off by asking you a very important question. True or false? If a defender has obtained a legal guarding position, the ball handler is required to stop and change direction to avoid contact. The answer is true. A player who is moving with the ball is required to stop or change direction to avoid contact if a defensive player has obtained a legal guarding position in their path. If a guard has obtained a legal guarding position, the player with the ball shall get his or her head and shoulders past the torso of the defensive player. If contact occurs on the torso of the defensive player, the dribbler is responsible for contact. Now that we understand that concept, I want you to take a look at this video clip, and I will ask you a very important question after you've seen the clip.
White goes for loading and unloading only.
Now that you've seen the clip, let me ask you a very important question. Would you have ruled the blocking foul in this play? For most officials, they see the defender obtain a legal guarding position with 2 feet facing their opponent and then get run over by a bus. This is clearly a player control foul, and most officials would get this play correct. Now watch this play. Do you agree with the blocking foul being charged on this play? This play is indicative of a play we see all over the country on a nightly basis. We see a defender clearly obtain legal guarding position, get illegally contacted by an offensive player. The defender was knocked to the ground, but then is charged with a blocking foul. Do you agree with that ruling? If you were a coach, a player, or a fan of this team, what would your reaction be to this ruling? If you're like most people, if you're a player, a fan, or a coach of this team, you'd react in a similar fashion that we see depicted on this slide. And if we as officials are going to misapply the rules to the effect that we've just seen in this clip, we have to prepare ourselves for other rules that might need to be applied. When we miss rulings this way, we're going to elicit a negative response. And some of those negative responses are going to be unsporting, and is going to create situations which apply technical fouls to players and head coaches. We as officials need to raise our accountability and apply the rules more accurately to avoid these situations. We have to understand that some of the technical fouls we rule are a result of misapplied rules. What did the defense do wrong on this play? Do you agree with this blocking foul ruling? Once again, this appears to be a player control foul ruled to be a blocking foul. The offensive player clearly fails to get head and shoulders past the defender. She displaces the defender, but yet the defender is charged with a foul. What did the defense do wrong in this play? Once again, the offensive player moves into the lane and contacts a defender who has legal guarding position on the torso and displaces the defender. Just because the contact was not square in the torso does not mean a foul should be ruled against the defense. The torso includes the shoulder area, and when we have shoulder-to-shoulder contact, this is still a player control foul. So in your opinion, what do you think the primary cause of these incorrect block charge rulings are? Do you think it's A, rules knowledge? Do you think it's B, positioning or angles? C, ball watching or not officiating the defense? D, a combination of B and C? Or E, other? We think the answer lies somewhere between B and C. Positioning and angles certainly play a role in making accurate rulings, but also does ball watching and not officiating the defense. Notice the lead on this play. The lead is 100% focused on the offensive player and ends up ruling a blocking foul on what we perceive to be a player in legal guarding position. This appears to be a player control foul ruled to be a blocking foul. Had the official properly identified the secondary defender and seen the whole play and officiated the defense, we feel like this would have been ruled a player control foul. To be effective in the lead position, officials need to get in the habit of officiating the defense. As you can see by this image, in both plays, both on the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen, the lead is responsible for plays in the lane area, especially when it comes to secondary defenders. The lead officials should invest their time in identifying those secondary defenders early in the sequence and anticipate block charge rulings. If they can get in that habit, they will increase their accuracy on their rulings. Here's another important question. True or false? A defender standing in a vertical position with their arms raised vertically can commit a foul. The answer is false. As you can see on this play, the defensive player, white 30, is in a vertical position when the offensive player receives a pass, turns into the defender, and tries for goal. There is contact on the play, but the defender is in a perfect legal guarding position with their arms raised vertically. This is legal incidental contact that was improperly ruled a foul on a legal defender. Here's our next question. True or false? A defender who jumps within their vertical plane with their arms raised in a vertical position can commit a foul. The answer is false. They cannot commit a foul. Here are the basic principles of verticality. But the aspect of this rule that we want to most emphasize is understanding while standing on the floor or jumping in the air, a defender may raise their hands and arms as long as they stay within their vertical plane. This is legal activity as supported by rule. What does the defense do wrong on this play? The defender, gray number 20, was charged with a foul on this play. Do you agree with that ruling? To truly understand the principle of verticality, let's talk about some terminology that is occurring in officiating today, namely jumping A to A versus jumping A to B. Is there a difference? The term jumping A to A has a meaning that the player lands in the same spot as when they jumped. When a player is jumping A to B, this means the player jumps from one location and lands in a different location. Does this defender jump from A to A or jump to A to B on this play? In this play, the offensive player initiates the contact. The defender appears to be jumping from A to A, stays within his vertical plane with both his torso and his arms. The defender is in a legal guarding position. Here's an example of a legal defender being charged with a foul. This is legal incidental contact. Does this defender jump from A to A or A to B on this play? When the defender initially jumps, his right foot is on the nearer lane line. When he lands, he's in the middle of the lane. He clearly jumped from A to B on this play. Therefore, the contact on this play is illegal and correctly ruled by the lead official on this play. Is this a correct ruling by the lead official? He rules the defensive player jumped from A to B into the torso of the shooter and therefore ruled a foul. Do you think this is A to A jumping or A to B jumping? Does your opinion change when we change the angle that we see the play? Is this a correct ruling by the lead official? He rules the defensive player jumped from A to B into the torso of the shooter and therefore ruled a foul. Do you think this is A to A jumping or A to B jumping? Does your opinion change when we change the angle that we see the play? This is A to B jumping. This is a foul by the defense and a correct ruling by the lead official. Do you agree with the blocking foul charge on this play? The offensive player in blue moves into the lane and contacts the defender. Did the defender do anything wrong? The defensive player jumps from A to A within their vertical plane and was contacted and knocked to the floor. This is a player control foul, yet a blocking foul was ruled. This is the type of play that we in Maine need to get right. This is a legal defender being charged with a foul. This can be a challenging play. In most instances, when a defensive player who's in a vertical position lowers their arm past that vertical position, they will be responsible for contact. However, on this play, the defender lowers their arm as a result of contact committed by the offense on the torso of the defender. This is legal incidental contact and was correctly ruled by the officials. It is possible for a defender in a vertical position to commit a foul. And here's an example. The defender is vertical. However, they are stepping forward into the offensive player while they're attempting a try. This defensive walk-under is a foul and properly ruled by game officials. Here's another important question. True or false? A foul should be charged every time a ball handler falls to the floor after contact with a defender. Answer: this is false. Sometimes it takes intestinal fortitude not to blow the whistle. Here's an example of an offensive player falling to the floor after tripping over a legal defender. This looks ugly. Players will complain, fans will complain, and coaches will complain. This is a legal play. Maine officials need to have the intestinal fortitude to rule plays such as this as incidental. True or false? When shooters fall after a blocked shot attempt, it must be a foul. Answer: this is false. Once again, officials have to have intestinal fortitude to rule ugly plays to be incidental when no foul has occurred. Here's a play where the offensive player falls to the floor after a legally blocked shot. Players will complain, fans will complain, and coaches will complain. But officials need to have the intestinal fortitude to rule this play accurately, despite how it appears. Let's wrap things up by talking about 4 key concepts. First and foremost, master the guarding rule. In particular, the head and shoulders concept. If the offensive players are not getting head and shoulders by the defender, they will be responsible for contact. Secondly, officiate the defense. Officials, particularly in the lead position, need to get better at identifying secondary defenders. Third, master the verticality rule. Know the difference between A to A and A to B movement. And lastly, and most importantly, let's get the game back in balance between the offense and the defense. MPA Tournament. The Maine Principals Association has approved the use of video replay for postseason tournament basketball games at tournament venues that have official video equipment and replay capabilities, such as Maine Public Broadcasting or WHOU. Game officials will be required to use the designated replay monitor when available to determine if a goal at the expiration of time in the fourth quarter or any overtime period should be counted or canceled, when it would determine the outcome of the game. When the officials go to the monitor, they may also determine if the try is a 2-point goal or a 3-point goal. Step 1 of the instant replay procedure begins in pregame. In pregame, the referee will designate the official timepiece prior to the scheduled starting time of the game. When a clock is located above the backboards in one of our facilities, they will be designated as the official timepiece. When the referee goes to the scorers and timers table at around the 12-minute mark, in addition to their usual pregame instructions to the scorer and timer, they will also review the instant replay procedure with the table officials and identify the location of the courtside review equipment. Number 2. The scorer and timer should be prepared to assist the game officials in determining if a last-second try for goal should be counted or canceled. using the following procedure. The scorer is responsible for watching the release of the try. When the try is released, the scorer should verbally state shot. The timer is responsible for determining when the time has expired in the quarter or period by watching for the LED lights or listening for the horn in facilities that do not have LED lights. Currently, the Augusta Civic Center does not have LED lights, so the horn will be the official ending of the quarter. In the other facilities, the LED lights will be the official ending of the quarter. The timer should be prepared to share this information if requested by the referee. If needed, the referee will ask the timer, where was the ball when the time expired? This information may be used by the referee to make the ruling. It should be noted that this procedure should be used by officials in situations when instant replay is not available. For example, it could be used in the first, second, and third quarter of a tournament game, or could be used during the regular season. Officials this season should get in the habit of communicating with the scorer and timer about this process and use it as needed to help make decisions at the end of the game. Number 3. Before the replay is initiated, the game officials must signal if the goal should be counted or canceled. This can be done in one of 3 ways. First, the official responsible for the last-second try should signal to indicate their ruling. If the covering official is unsure, the game officials may conference to arrive at the ruling. And lastly, the referee may also consult with the timer's table in making this determination. Item 4. When the instant replay procedure is initiated, the referee sounds their whistle and displays the replay review signal as indicated below. Item 5. The crew clears the court, moving the teams back to their respective benches. The review may not be conducted until the court is clear. Item 6. The review. The official's responsibility are as follows. The referee informs the scorer that the play is under review. The referee and the official who made the initial ruling, or the U1 if the referee made the initial ruling, will go to the monitor. The other official stands at the midpoint between the scorer's table and the center circle to monitor the team activity. If needed, the 2 umpires may switch positions during the review. Item 7. The decision. The officials must have indisputable evidence to change the ruling made on the court. Item 8. The announcement. Once the play has been reviewed and a decision has been reached, the referee moves to the center circle, sounds their whistle, and signals to count the goal, using the 3-point signal if necessary, or cancel a goal. If an overtime is needed, use the proper overtime procedures. If the game is over, they'll leave the court together as a crew. If you have questions about this procedure, please contact your local interpreter. For those officials who aspire to work in the postseason, there are some important dates to keep track of. On December 31st, all officials in the state of Maine will receive a draft of the tournament pool eligibility list so they can review it and make sure it's accurate. We take this information, make necessary adjustments, and then send that information to the MPA to start the tournament process. On January 14th, we will send a board ballot to all eligible officials so they can vote for their peers to see which officials should be used in the postseason. On February 9th, the tournament pool is announced, and those officials will be included in the 2024 basketball tournament. There's a long-standing tradition in Maine to make sure officials who are becoming eligible get observed by site supervisors before the postseason. We want to make sure we have a complete understanding of people's ability before making the final determination of which officials should be included in the tournament pool. This year is no exception. The site supervisors and the interpreters have identified 24 people who are close to meeting the 50-game threshold and will be observed this season. If you are in one of these categories, you should make sure to officiate to the best of your ability, because you never know when one of the site supervisors or interpreters is going to come to watch you work and assess your abilities as far as postseason assignments. If you're unsure how many career games you've officiated to this point, you can find out that information by logging on to the Maine Basketball Council website at www.mainebasketballcouncil.org. From there, click on the MPA Tournament Info section and click on the drop-down list in the Eligibility Information Request form. Once you begin typing your email address in the system, you should see it in the drop-down list. Merely select your email address and hit Submit, and this information will be forwarded to you momentarily. After you've hit the Submit button on the website, you should receive an email within a few moments depicting your tournament eligibility information. It should be noted that there are 4 factors of becoming eligible to officiate in postseason. You need to have 50 or more countable varsity games. You need to have attended the state clinic, scored 86 or above on the exam, and have officiated 15 MPA countable basketball games during the current season. If you've met all those requirements, the tournament eligibility column should say eligible. If you have any questions or concerns about this information, or if you feel there are mistakes, please contact TJ Halliday at the Maine Basketball Council immediately. In addition to the important dates that officials need to know for the tournament, if you are fortunate enough to be selected to the tournament pool, it should be noted that this season, the MPA tournament site supervisors are instituting a solicitation policy. The policy reads as follows. The solicitation of assignments by officials is prohibited. The MPA tournament site supervisors are strictly off limits for any inquiries in regards to the assignment of MPA tournament games. If an official approaches a site supervisor and attempts in any way to influence the assignment of games, they will be removed from the MPA tournament pool. We've had several instances in the last few years, and this policy means to address those instances. We need officials to be patient and professional and accept assignments when asked. If you should have any questions during the season, please contact your board interpreter. They are your main resource for any information you may need for officiating basketball in Maine. Now that you've completed the clinic, it's time for the state clinic makeup quiz. The instructions are quite simple. Review all 10 questions, create answers, and send the answers to all 10 questions to tjhalliday@ibo.me. Keep in mind that verification of your state clinic attendance will be sent back to you within 24 hours of submission. If you have not received this verification from me directly within 24 hours, please contact me again and make sure we get the credit for your attendance. Question 1. Is it legal for a player to step out of bounds on their own volition as long as they are not attempting to avoid a violation or the first to touch the ball upon their return to the court? Yes or no? Question 2. If a player's momentum takes them out of bounds when making a legitimate basketball maneuver, they may not be the first to touch the ball after returning to the playing court. Yes or no? Question 3. Beginning this season, the one-on-one bonus situation will begin with the 5th foul of each half. Yes or no? Question 4. Team foul counts will not be reset to 0 if a game goes into overtime. Yes or no? Question 5. After an out-of-bounds violation in the front court, the throw-in will be administered at one of the 4 designated throw-in spots nearest to where the violation occurred. Yes or no? Question 6. When a team is gaining or retaining the ball in their backcourt, the throw-in will be at the spot nearest to where the violation, foul, or other stoppage occurred. Yes or no? Question 7. When a team is gaining or retaining possession for a front court throw-in for any reason other than out of bounds, it is at one of the 4 designated spots nearest to where the stoppage occurred. Yes or no? Question 8. After an out-of-bounds violation, a team may request a timeout to move the throw-in spot to one of the 4 designated throw-in spots. Yes or no? Question 9. If a team commits a throw-in violation, the opponents will always be awarded the ball at the original throw-in spot. Yes or no? Question 10. If the ball is awarded to the incorrect team for a throw-in, the mistake must be corrected before the throw-in ends. Yes or no? This completes the Maine Basketball Council State Clinic. Please have a safe and healthy season.